Welcome back to the channel. Today we are building this 6-liter for Austin Cupp's 1969 Chevy C10. He's currently got a 5.3 in there that's having some oil pressure issues and other problems. Brought it in to do a few upgrades. You guys seen that video a couple weeks ago. But today we're going to be assembling this 6-liter. We got a brand new set of flat top pistons, a set of Gen 4 rods, a Stage 2 PDS cam from BTR, and a few other goodies. We're going to start getting this thing together because we've got 2 weeks from today to have this in the truck, tuned and broke in, ready to road trip to LS Fest. We're going to knock the cam bearings in first, and then we're going to flip it over, get the main bearings and the crank set in it. Make sure you ring that bell for updates on this build and it going in the truck, along with our road trip to LS Fest to hang out with everybody and have a good time. Let's dive into this thing. Alright guys, so we got our cam bearings here. These are Durabond CH10s. The 6.0s have 3 different types of cam bearings. There's a CH10, a CH23, and a CH25. Depending on what 6-liter you have will depend on what cam bearings you need. For this LQ4 we need the CH10s. One way to know is if you need the 25s, then when you try to slide a 10 in your hole, it's going to just fall right in. Obviously not be a press-in style bearing. Now these are numbered. Always check them. Make sure that they're numbered correctly. And if you're looking at this, you got 5 bearings. So if we act like this is the front of the block here, a CH-10-1, a CH-10-2, and then a 3. And then these 2 are the same as these 2, 2 and 1. So its outsides are 1s, middles are 2s, and then your dead center is a 3. And you want to make sure where it says it on that bearing, they are numbered the way they're supposed to be. So we're going to have to wipe these down with mineral spirits. They got greasy handprints on them. 2, 3, then it should be a 2 and a 1. Then we've got 2 holes on the cam bearings. One of these needs to line up. It doesn't matter which one, but one of these needs to line up with the oiling block or the oiling hole inside the block. So we'll use like a 90-degree pick or a small Allen head to check that once we install the cam bearing. Alright, let's get these bad boys knocked in here. Alright, so we got the first one drove about halfway in. I'm going to leave it right there. That way the cone that centers the tool doesn't ride on that bearing as we drive in the rest of the bearings. So we're going to go ahead and move back and do the second bearing and the third bearing. Then we'll have to turn the tool around and come in through the front. Alright, so we got our bearings in the block, we got our crank set in place, we've got a piece of PlastiGauge on number 1 and 4. About to torque down the main caps now. Pull them back off and see what the PlastiGauge says. Like I said, we are putting this together completely dry to measure these, and then we'll lube everything up with assembly lube. I would have loved to have been able to send this block off and have it gone through 100% all the way. But we're on a time crunch, and this truck's got to make a road trip in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today. We did it like we've done several budget junkyard builds, so we can torque these things. Alright, so our first pass on our inner and outer bolts is 15 foot-pounds. Then the second pass is 80 degrees. Our Alright, we're going to dial this thing back to 51 degrees for the second pass of the outside bolts, which are the studs. And then our side cap bolts get, you said 18 foot-pounds? Alright, now we're going to knock all these things loose by hand, pull them all back out, and pull these caps back off and see what our clearances are. Alright, so we're looking for around 2 thou on the mains. Now if you look, we're on inches here. So right here is going to be our 2 thou. Looks like we're closer to 1. It's going to be a tight one. Really got like 1.5. Some spots are spread out a little more than others, but if we're looking at the consistency of the streak, the way number 4 is, it's like 1. Pretty much registering the same thing over here on the caps. We got 1 thou on number 4, about 1.5 on number 1. It's going to be a little tight. We may have to play with the oil weights a little bit until we find the oil weight that we like. Alright, now we're going to pull the crank out, clean the plastic gauge off of the bearing and the crank, lube this thing up, set it back down, and get it torqued down. Alright guys, so we got 9 days to get this motor built, swapped into Austin's truck, and stress tested enough to make sure it's going to make the trip. So today we're going to work on getting the pistons and the rods in this thing, try to slide the cam in, and change some springs in the heads. And then from there we'll get this thing slapped together and get his truck up here and try to get that thing swapped out before the end of the week or this weekend. So we're going to dive right back into it. Emma's already got our bearings and our rings put on the pistons and rods, and obviously the rods put on the pistons. We're going to grab our piston tool. We're using a BTR standard 6.0 tool, which is a 4-inch bore. Edges are chamfered so it sits down in the cylinder good. And this is going to help us drive our pistons in quickly and efficiently. Alright, so this is cylinder number 1. Arrow is going to face the front of the block. So essentially it's going to go in the motor just like we're looking at it. So that means this right here is going to be 12 o'clock. If we're thinking about the top of this piston as the clock face. So 12 o'clock here. I always start with my expander ring and my oiling rings. I'm going to try to find my seam on my expander ring. Now, some instructions are going to be different. Let me tell you an exact specific way. These didn't say anything about where the expander ring butt needs to go. I like to put it at 12 o'clock. And then from there we're going to find the joint on one of our oiling rings, the bottom rings. Alright, so essentially what we're trying to do here is keep the butt of our expander ring about 12 o'clock. And then we're going to take one oiling ring gap to this first notch on the side of the piston. And we're going to locate our other one, which is way down here. We're going to try to hold that one oiling ring and the expander ring and gently slide this one around. Now we want it a little too far. We want it right here. And then from there, you're going to take your second ring, say 3 o'clock. Then you're going to take your top ring and put the gap at 9 o'clock. Now that bad boy's ready to go in there. First we're going to do a bearing clearance check with some PlastiGauge. So we're going to assemble this in. We are going to lube the ring side, but we're going to leave this side dry. And we're going to drop this thing in number 1, bolt the cap down to spec with no lube in whatsoever, but we're not going to turn it over at all. Then we're going to pull the cap back off, check our bearing clearance, knock the piston back out, or lube the top of the rod bearing, and then proceed to the next. Alright, so Emma's got the cylinder lubed up now. We are going to turn this crank a little bit before we start, so that way we got a good straight shot at our bolts. I'm just going to set my piston tool right there for now, make sure my arrow is facing the front of the block, double check my rings. Yep, and then we're going to take our little handy dandy oiling gun here, and we'll lube the rings and the skirts. Then once once it's in there, we'll turn our tool just a little bit, try to keep it straight. Now you want to apply a little bit of pressure down on the tool just to make sure it stays centered in the cylinder. And then once all your rings are passed, you can move the tool. Alright, now we're going to get us a piece of PlastiGauge out. Just going to take us a little piece of that PlastiGauge. We're going to lay it across this cap and then bolt the cap down. Now before I put that on there, I'm going to see which way this cap needs to go. I think that's going to be it. Nope, that is not it. Flip this bad boy around. Okay. So I'm going to lay that. I'm going to try to lay it to where it's all the way across the bearing. Y'all remember, these rod bolts are torque to yield, so they're single use. GM says you can reuse the main bolts, but we try to get new ones every chance we can. Doesn't always fit the budget though. Alright, so we're going to cinch this thing down with our handy dandy 11mm. So snug them up. And then we'll bust out the torque wrench. And I do not remember what those get torqued to. So our first pass on this will be 15 foot-pounds, which is not much at all. And then our next pass, I'm going to swap this over to degrees. So it's going to make me set this thing down for a minute. Let it zero out. And then we're going to bump this up to 85. And then we're going to give it the biscuits. And luckily for jobs like this, Snap-on gives us a LED strip indicator on both sides of our wrench to let us know when we're getting close. Lord of mercy. I should have busted out the 1/2 inch for this job. There's one. 85 degrees on the monies. And reset our wrench. Now we're going to grab our speed ratchet again. We'll knock this thing loose. Alright, so we got our PlastiGauge laid out on the rod bearing here. We're going to size it up. Say that's almost like a 1.5 thou. Yeah, it's a little tight. Matches the mains, I guess. I'd really like to see a solid 2 thou on there, but 1.5 isn't terrible. We may just have to play with the oil weights a little bit on this thing. Now we're going to take a little bit of mineral spirits and a rag and wipe this PlastiGauge off of the crank and this bearing, and we're going to get these rods and pistons put in and all of them torqued down and get this thing ready to soak some lifters, slide in a camshaft, ready to get married to a set of cylinder heads. Alright, so we got the rods and pistons in this thing. Rotating assembly is complete. Now we're getting ready to slide in the BTR Stage 2 PDS cam. First time using this cam, we're going to go ahead and slide it in, drop the lifters in, and then we've got to change his springs on the heads. The heads have been sent off and been worked. They've got a stock spring in them, so we're going to take those out and put a dual polished spring in it, good locks and retainers, new seals of course, which we only have to change them because the seals that we're putting in it, or the springs that we're putting in it, the seals that are in it won't work with those springs. So we do have to change the seals as well. We're going to try to get this thing in LongBlock form and get it ready for Austin to bring his truck and get it dropped off. That way we can get this thing swapped out. Our days are counting down and we're we're running out of them, so we got to get this thing done. Austin does have a new oil pump, but he has possession of that, so he's going to bring that out this evening. That way we can get that put on. But we got the flat tops in with the Gen 4 rods, all new bearings, all new rings. You guys saw the whole process of that. So now let's dive in. Let's pull this cam out and see what it looks like. Alright, so this is what we're dealing with. We got a stage 2 PDS cam. It does say torque, so should make some power. On the low side, our valve lift is 619, 617, and then our duration is 221, 240X. Pull this thing up, pull the card out. I do not remember what the LSA on this one is. Looks like a 113, even though it's a PDS cam. I think it's a good indication we're gonna love it's gonna love the boost. It says we install dot to dot. Nice little message from BTR there. That's what everybody wants to see right there. Back of the stick. Slide this thing out of here. It's got some fat lobes. I like it. You want to use a good assembly lube when you're putting these cams in, especially if the engine's going to be sitting for any amount of time before you run it. And then the bigger the lift and the more the duration, the tighter it's going to be going in on as the lobes pass through the bearings. Smaller cams they're not that tight, they're pretty loose. And as you work your way to this end of the cam, it's going to get a little trickier. You're going to have to line up more journals with more bearings. Keep it as straight as possible. I'm going to take my tool off, get my cam plate, new bolts on there. Then we'll be ready for a cam gear and a timing set. So look, there's several variants of not only cam gears, but cam retainer plates and bolts for the cam retainer plates. And if you're not careful and you're just mix matching stuff together, or you're making several runs to the parts store, your local AutoZone or O'Reilly's or Advanced, then you may run into some issues when it comes time to fire your car off. So as you can see here, we've got a BTR LS2 LS3 3-bolt 4-pole 58X cam gear. Now this is a Gen 3 motor, so you're probably wondering why I'm running a 58X cam gear in a 4-pole. And that's because with the Gen 3 setup, as long as it's a 3-bolt gear, that's all we're looking for. The cam sensor is not in the front of the timing cover, so I'm ignoring the fact that this is a 4-pole cam gear on the front here, because our cam sensor is in the back of the block. Now the cam sensor that's in the back of the block runs off a reluctor wheel that's on the back of the cam. If your cam gear, some of them have a step right here, and it'll slide through this cam plate, certain cam plates and certain cam gears, but if that happens, that allows that cam to walk essentially just enough back in the block to where it doesn't line up with the cam gear if you're running a Gen 3 in the back of the block. But also if you're running a Gen 4 and you try that, then you're pulling the cam gear away from that cam sensor in the front cover. So the vehicle's not going to want to start. You're going to have an endless cam sensor issue. You're going to be chasing wires. You're going to be chasing cam sensors, looking at ECMs, and that's going to be the mechanical problem the entire time. We actually dealt with this on a car not too long ago. We've dealt with a similar situation on various cars in the past. So that's one thing I always check now when whether we're just doing a simple cam swap or we're actually assembling an engine. I will make sure that this cam plate cannot slide around the outside or the back of the cam gear. That way I know our cam stays exactly where we want it. Now I don't have one on hand that actually does, but I want to say they were part store cam plate and a part store cam gear, like a Cloy's, and it had a step right here on the inside that just happened to so perfectly slide around that cam gear. and allowed it to walk. The part number for this cam plate that we're using today is a BTR 89016. And then the part number for the cam gear that we're using today is a BTR 86481. And like I said, I'm ignoring the fact that this is a 4-pole because our cam sensor's in the back of the block. This is going to do just fine for what we're doing with this application. Yep, and this the difference I was talking about a second ago in the bolts for the cam retainer plates. A lot of the earlier LS's came with 10mm regular style, like oil pan. They look like oil pan bolts, and they weren't countersunk. A lot of aftermarket timing sets, if you try to run that stock plate, the bolt heads will rub on the back of the cam gear and you'll cause metal contamination and a lot of resistance and heat buildup within your timing chain area. When we buy a cam plate, we buy new bolts too. BTR 6145.5s. New plate. You see it's ready for countersunk bolts, and that's what we're putting in it, is a Torx head. Putting a Torx headed cam retainer plate bolt in it. You see the blue Loctite on there. So just want to stop and explain to you guys for a second. These 3 pieces right here, it's very crucial that they all work together and are compatible with one another. Alright, so we got the timing set on. Cam bolts are Loctite, torqued down. Retainer plates on there, all that good stuff. Now Emma's getting ready to drop the lifters in this thing. New set of them BTR lifters. Not drop a lifter like that. Install the lifters. Slide them in them buckets in there. Just got to get our lifter tray bolts in there. We wrote Austin a little message on here. Just all fun and games. The junkyard dog. Just long leash. Alright, so I got all the valve springs changed in the heads. Emma's working on torquing the heads right now. Got the driver's side one on here. We are running some Arp head bolts. She's going to get these things torqued down. Push rods and rockers. Get us an oil pump shimmed and put on here, and this thing's just about ready to go in the truck. See our junkyard dog. We gotta check up on him. Need to give him a bowl of food and water down here. Alright, so we got a LS head gasket. It's the same gasket for either side. So you need to look and see what side's labeled front. Because some of the gaskets have an opening here, and then they're blocked off here. Another good way to tell is this tab right here. The tab will be more to one side. You want it more to the front of the motor. A couple little pro tips there. Alright, we are using some Arp head bolts. It's the 97-03 style, which means we have long bolts and 2 short bolts on the outside, on the inside of the heads. Outside bolts, but on the inside of the heads. The washers, a little different on each side. You want that side down. The chamfered inside edge going up towards the bolt head. And we're going to apply a little bit of this in between the washer and the bolt head. Alright, so we got a long block assembled here. Oil pump is shimmed. She just got to torque the front cover bolts down on the oil pump. And then it's valve covers. The other goodies. Get this thing ready to put in. Austin's going to be dropping his truck off today. So we'll be turning into this thing tomorrow, getting it swapped out. Alright, so we have lined up a trade deal on this white crew cab. A little 2-for-1 action. Trading for that crew cab, and that long bed right there. Now check that thing out. Got a little cam small block in it. So we're gonna see what's happening. These are Texas reps. So long bed out here. See, y'all check this thing out. There she is. Alright, so Chris just test drove the white truck. We're about to unload the square. Probably running around the block. And we're going to unhook his trailer from this crew cab, get it hooked up to the white crew cab, and he'll be ready to rock. And it's got crank windows. I love it. Thing's rad.
I like it.
Well, that's good. Damn, got some good brakes.
it for being how low it is.
4.6 drop. Alright guys, so we got Chris here. He just drove down here from Northwest Arkansas to trade us a 2-for-1 deal on the white crew cab. So we've got the 79 round eye, long bed, and then he brought down a 05 crew cab as well. But he's done all the work to this long bed, and I thought it'd be a cool opportunity to talk with him for a minute, get the rundown, get the scoop on it, see all the details about this thing. So obviously we know it's a 79 model.
Yes, sir.
You said you bought it from a farmer?
Yes, sir. Farmer out. I can't remember where he's from, but it was completely stock when I bought it. Everything was stock. Has 350 small block in it. It's got a stage 2 cam in it. Got some custom pinstriping from Billy out in Lamar, Arkansas. But I slammed it. I did everything. But it's a good, clean running truck.
I dig the hell out of it. So did you have any long-term goals for it?
Yeah, I wanted to put LS swap it, but you know, got babies, kind of have to part ways with some things.
Yeah, man, I know how that goes.
It was the first square body I ever owned, and first truck that ever got me into the truck scene and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little hard to get rid of. But I'm glad it's going to a good home.
Yeah, no, for sure. I sold a 98 OBS single cab, short bed, like, you know, the desirable truck these days. I sold one fresh out of high school for nothing.
Yeah.
To get a car with all a baby. No, this thing's awesome, man. We ran around the block. It runs great. Shifts out great. Thing's hitting a lick when you pull in.
Yeah.
You can't ask for more.
It's not perfect, but she looks good.
So you said you ran Beltec in the back.
Yes, sir.
And then just a spring and a spindle up front, I'm guessing.
Yep.
Probably 2 on both, and then a shock.
Yeah, just some cheap AutoZone shock.
Heck yeah.
American Racing 20s.
Yeah, same ones I got on Panda over there. So did you do like a Poppy's patina or clear?
It was
or?
actually a buddy. He I can't remember what he did, but he just buffed it and just put a kind of like a ceramic coat on it.
Okay. Okay.
But it's just technique, just like Papa's patina.
Yeah, no man, it looks awesome.
And he did it almost a year ago.
Looks fully preserved, you know. I love it.
Yeah, and the off color, we couldn't get them to match, so this color is actually the original color color code that it's supposed to be for this truck.
Oh, no kidding. So that's what it looked like back in the day.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. And the cab lights, got the cab lights.
Cab lights do work.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I didn't even notice that.
Yep, they're LED, so they look pretty good going down the road.
Like I noticed it already. You said it, but then we noticed it. Me and him were looking. Like even that's pinstripe. That's not a sticker.
Yeah, that's pinstripe.
That's real.
Billy Red did that out in Lamar.
You know, it's the little stuff like this that just give these old trucks character.
Yeah.
Especially when they've been, you know, refinished like that.
I actually got the story on the door over there.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I guess he got out and didn't put it in park, and he hit a fence post.
Damn it, son. Yeah, probably caught that fence post right here, and then it did the damage there, huh? No, man. See, I love the stuff like that. It gives a character, shows that the truck has a history, has a past, you know. It's just like when you're talking to an old timer and he's covered in scars, and you can tell he worked, you know. That's the guys that have the wisdom, you know.
Yeah, me and this truck's been through it.
Man, we're super happy that you come down and made the deal. I'm excited to take this thing to some shows, and can't promise how long I'll keep it, but we're gonna enjoy it while we have it. Which I talked my mom into keeping that over the crew cab, but I think that AC is gonna be a deal breaker on that.
Yeah.
She wants that AC, man.
Yeah, that one it didn't come AC.
Yeah. See me, I'm a smoker, windows open, let her roll.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm not thinking about AC when I'm driving my square body. Like, I'm not even thinking about it, you know?
Nah. Your AC's when you open them wing
I'm cruising, dude. Like, sweat, I don't know. Brings more of the aesthetic of the old vehicle, you know?
I'd rather suffer in a cool truck than an
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Well, I appreciate you, like I said, man, I appreciate you coming down. I appreciate you bringing both of them down and taking some time to talk about it and do this. I'm excited to see what all you do to the white crew cab.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna put that cam in there. Throw some headers on it.
I love those trucks, man. I just don't need two of them.
Yeah.
There you guys have it. There's all the details on the long bed. We'll try to make it to a couple shows in the next couple weeks. Hopefully try to hit something before LS Fest, but who knows if we're gonna have time with all the stuff we have going on around here. But we are going to try to get this thing out, stretch its legs, and cruise it a little bit. We're going to let Mr. Chris get back up northwest and enjoy his day off that he's got now and his new truck. We're going to get back to work. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up this episode. We got his engine built. We're working on getting it in the truck now. And we had a follower come all the way down from northwest Arkansas and do some wheeling and dealing with us. In the next episode, we'll be installing this thing and heading to LS Fest. As you can see, we already got a jump start on that. So we did end up with that yellow long bed and the dark gray black colored crew cab, and Chris took the white crew cab home with him with an empty trailer. We got Austin's motor mocked up with the blower and the valve covers to kind of see what it's going to look like in this thing. We got him an ICT billet valley cover. Red donated that. He's getting a new one, so he donated his old one. Next episode is going to be packed full of goodies on installing this thing and getting it fired up and ready to go to Bowling Green, Kentucky next week. As of right now, we've got 7 days until we leave for LS Fest. So a week from right now, we will be on the road in a convoy headed for Kentucky. We still got to get tires mounted on Panda. We still got to do the brakes on Panda. A couple other little things we need to get worked out on there as well, but that's a whole nother shebang. But we hope you guys enjoyed watching us put together this engine and getting it ready to go back in this truck, along with watching us trade that white crew cab off for what we call banana boat. And then we took the crew cab home and we actually traded it to my mom for the Jimmy. So we actually have the Jimmy now. I think that's going to be our little shop store parts truck, parts run truck. We're going to see what we can do with it. It needs quite a bit of work at this point though. Another later episode date right there. And then we got to get back on Alex Becerra's blue and white square body. We think we might have a lead on what the problem is. I just got to put it all back together. Like I said, we got 7 days to LS Fest, so I'm about to dive back into this thing. Remember, smash that subscribe button. Let us know in the comments if you're liking the content that we're bringing. We got plenty more coming, and we're not stopping anytime soon. So thank you guys for watching, and y'all have a great day.